Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, the episode where we go around the Icon ecosystem and bring you all the latest and greatest news. And with me, as always, Icongrapher. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, good man, good. It's been the Ohm craze last 3 days. I just have not done any work. It has just been a full-time
Yeah,
job.
I think yesterday, I spent several hours just clicking buttons, just because, and it was a lot of fun too because there was a lot of, a lot of ARB opportunities, a lot of ARB experimentation on
Mm.
my part. Some of it turning out well, some of it turning out not as well. But altogether, it was just kind of cool to watch a really, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but really cool to watch a growing, emerging, newborn market kind of in front of our eyes, watching the different kind of behaviors that were going on, trying to figure out why certain things were happening. It feels like oh, the Ohm token has been around for like a week now. Yeah, even though it's only been really a couple days. Certainly cool to see, and we'll obviously talk Ohm a little bit more. But yeah, definitely an interesting last 24 or 48 hours, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And look, this morning I haven't tuned into the markets. Don't even have the page open. But shall we do a quick coverage? I think things
Yeah,
are looking a bit positive at the moment. ETH has
yeah, there's
definitely
nice.
taken off.
Yep, nice little momentum. Some of the alts are starting to pick up a little bit. Icon last I checked was around 144, 145.
Yeah.
So obviously we fell all the way down to I think to 130 or something, if I recall. So nice little bounce back at the end. I think we're still continuing that two steps forward, one step back kind of trend.
Yeah.
Hopefully that continues. It's all been, this is kind of the healthiest market behavior I probably can remember these last 2 or 3 months or so, basically during this whole recovery kind of phase. Bitcoin's getting close to 50 again. It sounds like it needs to kind of break either 51 or 51,000 or 51,500 in order for the more technical people to feel a bit better about things.
Hmm.
But nonetheless, certainly some nice little momentum coming out of the weekend, or I guess we're on Thursday, so not it's no longer out of the weekend, but certainly some nice upward green action. Always nice to see, and there seems to be just sentiment seems to be kicking up a little bit nicely as well, but not again in any sort of unhealthy manner or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, it's looking good. They've been saying for a while, ETH. Uh, Supply dwindling on chain in terms of exchanges, lots of ETH getting staked, and then with the IP 1559, a lot more ETH. I believe from the real part of that was when ETH moved to proof of stake, that would really kick in, and the amount of ETH getting burnt would be huge. But I think just given the amount of congestion on the network when the activity picks up, a lot more ETH is being burnt than originally envisioned. So all of this has kind of just made it explode in price again, which is good to see. And yeah, a lot of the others, as you said, are following. So it's good. And Ohm has been great timing in the market, I guess, to kick it off, which is good to see. And it's good to see Iconists, uh, after holding and being on the sidelines for a while, believing in the project. It's great to see these dApps launching and distributing their tokens to, I guess, Iconists who have been waiting to use this stuff. And Iconists have been taking the time to learn and educate and kind of make money. So yes, ICX may not have skyrocketed to the old time highs, but the DeFi protocols have been giving us opportunities to make money, and you can see that it's tweets. Everyone is kind of like, if you're not capitalizing on this right now, make sure you learn and understand how to. So it's great to see. But I
Yeah,
think I
and
can go.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I've noticed too. There's fewer kind of you know, even though the price is still quote unquote low, I've seen fewer and fewer grumpy people just because I think there's now like there's stuff to do. There's more stuff people can actively do on chain, and again to productively kind of make money and stuff like that. So even if you didn't even really need to be a whale to make some pretty healthy returns during the first 24, 48 hours of ohm. Same with balance. So I think that gives people a sense that they're holding a productive asset to be sure. And it was, it's cool to go out, watch the excitement now that we have two DeFi platforms interacting with each other. And I think it gives people a lot more to focus on rather than just sitting there and being grumpy and complaining because the price isn't at $10 by next week.
Mm. Yeah, agree. It's a good time. It's a good time. So look, before we jump into Ohm and stuff, let's dive into the news. I think the first thing Iconographer you have for us is the dev update from Icon.
Yeah, so obviously the end of a month brings a new development update. We've been getting these, I think, for, I don't know, 2 years now, pretty much at the end of the month. And I don't know, maybe I'm not remembering well, but this felt like one of the more, I guess, exciting and I guess kind of tangible um, updates we've received thus far. And I say that mainly because usually these are written of just kind of like, hey, this is a thing we're kind of working on. Stay tuned for more details. And oh, this is a thing that just kind of happened. We'll be sharing more information, and or it gets really technical to where it might not be, it's impressive, but also it's so technical that it might not the light bulb might not go up for a lot of people right immediately. So whereas this is different because we got a lot more tangible, like, hey, this is done. And so what I mean by that is, to lead off, they mentioned that the data migration is 100% complete. They did mention the kind of the data testing part of it, so maybe it's like 99%, and they just need to kind of make sure the data migration itself did go well. But it looks like in terms of the data actually being moved over, it's all done. So now they're just kind of in the validation phase. Is kind of how I read it. So obviously that's something we've been anticipating. I think people were predicting based on the number of how quickly it had moved in between prior announcements that it would probably be on track for finishing, by the end of August, basically being complete, and that's kind of what looks like end up happening. So it's nice to see those folks getting that right. And as a reminder, they mentioned this here, but after this kind of migration process is complete, there'll still be another 2 weeks or so to get nodes and exchanges ready for the hard fork from Icon 1.0 to 2.0. So obviously that's exciting. So I assume we're kind of in that phase now, or just kicking off that phase. So by mid-September, hopefully that's about done and wrapped up. Also, the Moon River integration is entirely complete. That is one of the chains operating within the Polkadot ecosystem. So obviously, that's kind of the first, they say full on complete. So that one's good to go, ready to essentially launch, it looks like. And then meanwhile, the Binance Smart Chain is complete. That integration for BTP is complete. It's under review, so it's not, there could be a potential issue that they pop up or find or something like that they'll have to go and fix. So it's not 100% done, but it looks like it's pretty close to good to go. And then our integration with the Near protocol is making good progress as well. So hopefully that one's ready to go soon too. So, by the time BTP kicks off officially, after Icon 2.0 is up and running, it looks like we'll have probably at least two and potentially three protocols basically integrated and ready to go ideally. So obviously that's very exciting. And also I'll read a quote here. They basically said, the BTP ecosystem has expanded quite significantly behind closed doors, and we are in active discussions with many potential blockchain partners. Most have expressed high interest in joining. We look forward to announcing more official integrations in due time. So obviously a very exciting paragraph, both in terms of, it sounds like there's been a lot of activity kind of behind the scenes, and also there'll be, some fun announcements coming here in the near future. And then also they mentioned ICE, because I know that's on a lot of people's minds. The ICE blockchain, they said, is coming along nicely. They're working on, they've got the team together and they're working on kind of building it out and things like that. And also, one of the main questions I've seen time and time again is, when will a snapshot be? When we get more, insight on that? And they basically said, they're aware of all that questions. They said, we will share these details as soon as possible, but are hopeful we can share them in the next few weeks. So again, the month of September could be a pretty interesting one if we can get, Icon 2.0 up and running, we get BTP potentially up and running, and then we get some insight onto ICE, maybe even an airdrop, something like that. So it should be an pretty exciting month as far as the Icon community goes.
Yeah, look, it was great to see. It was a great update. One thing, a little bit of a negative. I was excited about this update. I was wanting to see the network proposals. Icongraph. I've been quite excited about that component because obviously Icon 2.0. But when these proposals get voted on, that's when we'll see the structure of the tokenomics change. But
You're talking
yes,
IISS
exactly. Because the
3.1,
last
I think?
update
Yeah,
hinted
right.
it should be out by now. So I was a little bit disappointed there. However, the update itself had so much news that I kind of disregarded that and paid attention to this. It was great. Look, 100% we're done. Now, one thing I did notice, Naeem put up a post on Twitter saying, so we're done. Essentially, one of the timelines was we got 2 weeks, then we'll look and, just as you broke it down, Icongrapher. But Naeem hinted at there's probably going to be 2 weeks of testing before we do the 2 weeks, and then, so it could be a month or just over before we actually hit Icon 2.0. So some people are like, oh, but everyone just, that's fine. What does it matter if it's 2 more weeks from migration completion date? This needs to go right. I mean, remember the chain is being hard forked. There will be a freeze in time. Everything needs to come back up and running just as it was. So, yes, I don't care. 2 weeks extra, 3 weeks extra, it's fine. Get it right. Do all the testing that's needed. But yeah, very exciting about.
Well, hopefully, maybe by the end of by Halloween for folks here in the States, other countries, uh, hopefully by Halloween, by the end of October, we'll be looking pretty good. So
Yeah.
even if we'll create a little buffer there. It's about 8 weeks now. Obviously, anytime you're doing development, things can go unexpectedly wrong or you run into issues, which is totally fine. So maybe it gets pushed back then. But I think even just saying, hey, within the next 2 months here, we're going to have kind of a our whole kind of icon world will be turned upside down in a good way. And then in the way that we've been looking forward to for 4 years, we can handle another 2 months, I think.
Yeah, agree. And I think the Moon River news that Moonbeam, yes. So the integration is complete, and we can see. I've just got a tweet up on here. They did a great snapshot of their ecosystem. I think I actually took some time to read. They're from what I read a few things about the dot chain, so I hope I'm not getting confused here. But essentially, Moonbeam is it is made for DeFi. It is essentially a parachain that is its point is to handle all kinds of DeFi on it. So you can see Scott's quite excited about this integration. It is a big deal. What is really cool as well, it's understanding that these are new ecosystems. Yeah, so you can clearly see like they've made this infographic. I've got it up on the screen. Icon's got a huge call out in DeFi, but they themselves, they've got bridges, they've got all kinds of stuff, but their dApps probably haven't, they haven't focused on that because they are a new chain. A lot of the parachains are new and they're building it out. So it's great to see Icon from the day dot we are connecting to them via BTP, and we can kind of hopefully leverage off our current ecosystems, Ohm and Balance, to go back and forth and help build their DeFi and vice versa. So really cool integration. Very excited to also spend some time getting them on the show so that they can break down give us firsthand exactly what their chain is about and their ecosystem. So more on that soon. But yeah, this is great. The BTP update was fantastic. And you know what? We had a session yesterday just in Ion Icon, and if you're not in the Telegram group, get in there because some of these sessions will just be unplanned. I know Icongrapher, you weren't there. You didn't even know of it. I literally put up a timer 1 hour before saying, come in, informal chat, let's talk strategies. And it just so happened right after an hour, Danielle from Icon DAO joined in and started talking all things Icon DAO, including how they've been working on these on this BTP integration and how it's done, and they're very excited about it. So it was quite cool, and she was very confident and excited about these integrations. And it was good to hear. It was great to hear coming from the team firsthand who've been working on it. So yeah, and look, lastly, the Ice Chain. Yeah, I mean, one thing everyone's worried about the snapshot. I don't understand that, honestly, because one thing I've realized is even with the airdrips and stuff like that, they've always given plenty of notice. Like, they've not just randomly turned around and gone, yeah, we've done the snapshot. They've always said, a week from now, or especially when it's gotten close, they've essentially, every protocol that launches that has an airdrip or anything, they've put a timer to it. So I'm not worried here that anyone's going to miss
Yeah,
it.
they didn't. And they didn't say it would be a retroactive. Sometimes they'll
It
do that where they won't even announce it, and then they
yeah,
say, "Oh, we did a snapshot in 3 months ago" or something
yeah,
like that. But they've never indicated that was the case. They've always said it's going to be they've always indicated it's going to be a forward looking snapshot with a given date and time. I think people. I mean, I think part of it is people. Even if that is the case, they're still paranoid they'll miss it or something like that, which is understandable, just because that's certainly something you don't want to miss. I think also it's part of it is if they get a date, they know, okay, this is the date I got to maximize my ICX accumulation if they're thinking in that manner. And the other part of it might be just from a price standpoint. In a lot of cases, these chains will mention, we're doing a snapshot on this date, and occasionally, or at least anecdotally, the price will go up because theoretically people are trying to buy so they can capture the snapshot. So people might be kind of thinking from a price standpoint of, oh, once we get potentially once we get a announcement date for a snapshot, all of a sudden ICX will start going up because people want to accumulate, knowing that this given date, they have to have it by this given date.
yeah.
I don't know, how often that necessarily plays out the way people think. I just think that's kind of part of the way people are thinking. And if that is the case, the downside of that is, yeah, the price goes up, and then as soon as the snapshot hits, people, people will sell their tokens, and the price goes back down to kind of where it was. So I don't know if that's a necessarily ideal outcome or anything like that. But nonetheless, that could be a reason people are thinking. But I think the vast majority are probably just, hey, they're a little bit frantic that they don't want to miss it or something like that, which is again understandable. But I also think generally not something that people should be worrying about, because it will be. Sounds like there'll be plenty of lead time in terms of when it'll happen, so people can prepare in whatever way they seek to get prepared.
Yeah, agree. Excellent. No, that's it was a great update. And this month is, it's. I think it's going to be update city, given that we're now starting the prep and the migration's done. So, I reckon every week we're just going to be hearing of the milestones that are getting hit, and continuous updates to, obviously this is dependent on P reps, especially that are going to kickstart the nodes for 2 and things like that. So we should just see a lot of activity happening at the moment, which is great. Cool. Shall we move on to the next topic, Icongrapher?
Yeah. So we've had Ohm for a little more than a week now. More importantly, we've had Ohm tokens for about 2 days now. We haven't had a podcast in the meantime, so this is our first chance to kind of talk about that. I just, it was like we kind of alluded to, it was a very interesting first couple of days as far as Ohm is concerned. I thought, I saw a lot of people beforehand. They said, well, BA Balance, the Balance token started at 70 or whatever, and then just gradually kind of went down and down and down. And so they all expected, okay, Ohm will launch and that'll be the highest, and then it'll just go down and down and down. And of course, if everyone's expecting a certain thing to happen, as an aphorism, usually the opposite does, and that's kind of what happened here, to where it launched, I think around $2 or $3, something in that range, if I recall correctly, and then it climbed and climbed and climbed. I think part of it, I was kind of looking at things, trying to figure it out. I think part of it was the fact that the initial yields for the pools for Ohm were pretty significant. As far as being a liquidity provider. So people saw that, and the only way they could really participate in those is, each of those liquidity pools has an Ohm pair. So you need obviously 50% of your holdings to be ohmed in order to do that. So there's a lot of demand for Ohm in order to try to get in those, because, I think even with, a relatively small amount of money, it was giving pretty good return as far as, the quantity of Ohm, and thus obviously the price being what it was, to where, it was a pretty healthy return. I think also the fact, I think partly displayed net where people could see their return that they were getting, or their yield, or their, I guess the amount of Ohm they were earning basically every second, every block, which is kind of a cool feature. So they saw how much they were earning, and they said, oh shoot, that's a good amount. I want to earn even more than that, as opposed to, with balanced, It takes, you don't really know what you earn. I mean, you kind of get an estimate, I guess, but you don't really see them come in until every once a day. As a side note, Balance is working on making that different, similar to how Ohm is, to where it's every block. So that'll be something to look forward to. Um, so there's a lot of demand for Ohm to get into one of those pools because again, that was the only way to get there. And then it got interesting because the price difference between the USDS and the IUSDC was at one point, at one point, you could sell Ohm for USDS at like $5.50 or something. And at the same exact time, if you wanted to sell it for IUSDC, it was like $9 or $10. I think someone mentioned that they sold for $10 or something like that. And so it was kind of there was a lot of interesting financial opportunities there if you could capture them. I know some people. What happened was all everyone had who had USDS had used it to buy Ohm, so they could get into the Ohm USDS pool. And then I think people started to take out loans of USDS so they could get in the pool. And then ultimately, what happened was the USDS supply on Ohm to be loaned out essentially maxed out. There was no more liquidity. So if you tried to borrow USDS, it was basically, Ohm just said, sorry, there's really not enough left. And so what happened is, there was no USDS around anymore to buy Ohm. So the only pressure in that pool was downward pressure on Ohm. So that's why it got so cheap in the USDS pool. And meanwhile, the only way to get Ohm, because nobody had USDS, was either IUSDC or SICX. And so that's why the price went so high on those, because there's a lot more buying pressure on that. And also too, people who were earning Ohm and wanted to keep it in that Ohm USDS pool. I think they would earn their Ohm and then they would sell half of it for USDS. So there was more sell pressure on the USDS side, and then they would move that into the pool. So a lot of interesting economic activity going on. People were kind of scrambling to figure out how to arb things. So I think people started using Bridge to transfer IUSDC to Ethereum, and then moving it to Stably and trying to get USDS that way. So there's a lot going on. By now, the peg is pretty close to where the price on IUSDC and the price on USDS is pretty much, I think it's, I don't know, 20 cents apart, something like that, at least the last time I checked. So the ARB, it seemed to be working there. But, what's been kind of cool too is just the amount of overall, just the process I was talking about where people are moving funds around all the time. I was clicking buttons left and right, just trying to, maximize the value of the Ohm I was getting, because that was I was getting new Ohm literally every block. Obviously wasn't claiming it that often. And then just, trying to figure out, where to people trying to figure out where to maximize arbitration, things like that, just because now there's so many different pairs. And so obviously I think a lot of people who use Balance and hold a chunk of BALN noticed that the fees went way up a good amount, just because there's been so much more swapping going on across all these different pairs and things like that. So it was exciting both from Ohm standpoint, just because, obviously the yields were high, but also people got a chance to try out the platform, but also from a Balance standpoint to see kind of, phase, I guess 1.1 of Balance in terms of all the different, now there's multiple assets on there, multiple pairs. If you go to the activity feed in the Balance Discord, there's basically see every swap happening as it happens. And at certain points, that thing's like impossible to keep track of, just because there's so much activity going on. So you really start to see, how much revenue Balance can potentially pull in. And when you factor in, okay, this is like the first upgrade kind of as far as additional pools, and then you consider what else is going to be there with, additional DeFi products on Icon, but also with BTP and all sorts of assets starting to flow in, things could get really interesting, and the network fees could get, potentially very lucrative if the trajectory holds. I was worried that it would be one of those things where, it was almost first day, so okay, everyone was scrambling around to do stuff, and so that's why the fees were high. But even the second day seemed pretty similar. Maybe not. I didn't do an exact comparison, but certainly within the ballpark. So certainly it was very exciting for both protocols.
Yeah, agree. Look, I think what's different over here, I mean, there were more liquidity pools, so more areas to spread I guess, your ohm into. But one key factor was staking. So with because each of the money markets had a 5% that was divided on each side. The pools had their own, and then the staking had 5% just allocated to it. So, while the pools were more lucrative, you could essentially stake your free tokens without a risk of IL or anything and still earn 3,000. It was up, and now it's 1,800%. And I'm saying just 1,800%. That's a lot, you know.
It's all relative.
Yeah. So that is one big thing, and two, and this has sometimes been called out, but the biggest incentive, apart from everything that Ohm offers, is say you can redirect your vote. So it's in P-reps, for example. There's always been the stigma, or maybe the inactive P-reps, and this, maybe they're just dumping on the market, their rewards, etc. In this case, what we've seen happen with the DeFi protocols launch, especially with Balance, when people want to utilize it, they go into SICX. At the start, SICX was only being delegated to the teams that built Balanced and Ohm, per se. So now what we're seeing is the ability for the Ohm stakers to redirect where that SICX, the ICX in that SICX, gets directed to which nodes. So for the voters, yes, who've realized this and understand this part, they've been actively and wanting to hoard Ohm tokens. If they're staking it, they're redirecting votes. But most importantly, P-reps are actually holding on to their Ohm stashes, and they should be, well, I hope they are, and actually staking it and redirecting the ICX to their nodes. And rightfully so. And it's actually great because it's not encouraging Ohm to be sold. It's kind of a cool system. And just to clear up something, it's not redirecting SICX that's just on Ohm. It's redirecting essentially as more each Ohm. It's connected to all the SICX, okay? So as more and more Ohm gets released as part of the distribution, then that's where you'll start to see every day. If you've just got 200 Ohm staked and allocated those rewards to Rhizome, for example, you will see that
great team to allocate for.
That's right. That's right. Constantly bringing all kinds of stuff, but over there, you allocate, say you had 100, you'll actually notice it may allocate 5,000 ICX. The next day, though, that would have automatically dropped to maybe 4,800, because obviously if you're not staking the new rewards, it won't reflect accordingly. But all of a sudden now, the fact that you can do that is great. That's the whole point of the ecosystem and P-reps. It's giving voters abilities to put their vote against P-reps they believe are doing the hard work and helping the Icon ecosystem. So it's a great feature, and I really feel this is impacting the price. But that said, Balance has taught us a lesson. Yes, it will come down. Look, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but it's just the nature of the game. It'll come down, it'll stabilize, and then we'll see what happened with Balance as well. As long as the market, holds, the price should start to find its sweet spot, I guess. But
and I think most people are pretty familiar with this by now. The idea of a permanent loss, but I think a lot of people saw the yields on the pools and maybe don't know what impermanent loss is. So just be cognizant of that, as whereas if the price of Ohm starts moving dramatically, either up or down, it's going to dilute your overall value that the pool holds. Now, I think up these first few days that the rewards you've earned are vastly going to supersede whatever potential and permanent loss you're going to get. But as these yields start to go down, just be something to be wary of, to where usually almost all the time the tokens you earn make up for the impermanent loss. But I think sometimes people see it, it still freaks them out. So if you're in one of these pools and you hear the term impermanent loss and you have no idea what I'm talking about, please take a moment to look it up. There's plenty of resources out there that kind of explain it. It's a little tricky to understand just because there's some kind of algorithmic math involved. But at the end of the day, it's just the mechanism, automated market makers, just the way they work. if one token moves by a good price, then you're ultimately going to see the overall value of your assets go down. And if it's a dramatic price movement, if it moves like 10x against the other piece of against the other pair, you could be in for a bit of hurting as far as impermanent loss is concerned. So please do make yourself familiar with it if you have no idea what that term is.
Yeah. Yep, agree. In fact, and full disclosure, warning: if you're listening to this time opportunity has passed, but Icongrapher looking at it right now, it looks like it's reversed. So now, something Icongrapher mentioned, there are constantly ARB opportunities because of the varied pairs. And consistently, we've seen one ohm selling at a higher rate into IUSDC than USDS. Literally, Icongraph at the moment, when looking at it, it looks like it's crossed the other way. One ohm is giving $5.55 USDS, and 1 ohm is giving $5.41 IUSDC. Now, I think everyone should understand and be armed with this information. That's what crypto is about. It's about enabling it for everyone. So it's not about the whales getting whalier. It's about everyone in crypto kind of understanding that you have these opportunities. So in this instance, if you had USDC, as long as that percentage there's a bigger gap, what you can do is buy USD ohm with IUSDC and then sell that ohm into USDS, and you should end up with more stable coins. So if you put in $100, depending on the gap, you go into ohm, slippage / fees aside, you come back on the other side. If you end up with 120 USDS, you have made a lot of money. These opportunities consistently present itself in the last few days, and this is what Icongrapher was saying, and even me, I reckon my day job's going to come knocking soon, going, where have you been? I'm like, but there's more profitable to trade.
At least in the early days. And do the math. I mean, maybe even do a test run of it, of seeing, say $10, and say, okay, if it's let me move this over, just because, again, if the price difference is only like 1%, you move that $10 over, and between having to make two different trades, the fees and the slippage, you might end up with $9.90, in which case you ended up losing money trying to make money. So if you're going to try this strategy, and again, we're not giving advice one way or another, just be cognizant of it's not just a clean. You can't just look at the price alone. You have to factor in that there is going to be a little bit of slippage, especially if you're dealing with larger amounts, and there's going to be a transaction fee, which isn't super major, but is something to be aware of. And even this alone, the fact that there's the only mechanism by which the $2 amounts can be kind of stable with each other, as far as IUSDC and USDS, is people just sitting there and trading back and forth whenever one deviates from another. So even that activity alone on just those two pairs is going to generate a chunk of fees for Balanced as a whole, which means as a BAL and token holder, you get a slice of those fees. So even just something as boring as making sure that the dollar pegs coins stay relatively even relative to ohm, that itself is very good for the Balanced fee allocation, but the amount of fees that get collected by the platform. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, and as Icongrapher said, one of this thing, if you are trying this, the first thing to do is kind of do a mock run. Don't actually do it. Copy the figures as you're switching between the pairs to see what happens. Remember, there's not a lot of liquidity, so make sure you can't do ridiculous amounts. Like if you go to do 10,000, 20,000 in one go, there will be a ton of slippage, so you need to factor these things. But again, not financial advice, just sharing the opportunities that are present, especially for people who are iconists and exploring DeFi in our ecosystem. Cool. Look, let's move. One other topic I wanted to talk about. So we know, for example, there's the Airdrip, and the Airdrip is similar to Balance. To be very clear, if you've staked to your PREP, this is not via SICX, so just your traditional staking where you pick your PREPs, all that ICX that is staked. Essentially, every week you will be able to claim an Airdrip, where you go to, ohm.finance airdrip and balanced airdrip, and you can claim every week. Then Ohm have done something different, and they have got a thing called Airdrop. This is not the Airdrip, it is completely different. Now, if you haven't jumped on this yet, and this is the first time you've heard of it, I'll make sure we put the link in the show notes. But the Airdrop is basically 4 different categories where you can check your wallet address as long as you've done these tasks that they've nominated, and you can claim your own tokens. Now, there is one for Aave and Compound where there's a bit of a task. Just to be clear, it's noted it's all claimed, so that is no longer available. But this was cool because it was kind of encouraging other Ethereum, the variants, of which Aave and Compound is basically the kind of a similar DApp in the Ethereum ecosystem, hopefully to kind of go, use those people to use Bridge and kind of get access to some free tokens, which was cool. But overall, you can see the 4. You have where you can get up.
I did see anecdotally some people pop into various channels saying, sounding like they had been users of those platforms and were looking for the airdrop, and they were hanging out in the Discord. So it does look like that was successful to a certain degree, at least anecdotally. So sorry to cut you off.
No, that's good. It's that's what they got to do, right? They got to try in that way. And look, the 3 that are currently left. One is if you've done some testnet. They were actively always promoting to jump on testnet and have a bit of a play. Now, if you've done that, it recorded your address, or they asked for a Discord form, so there's 400 free Ohm there. So, and it's very simple. You literally click check wallet and pick your wallet, and it will tell you. So if you have multiple wallets, definitely check through them. An easy way to get a couple of 100 Ohm is if you had one of them is if you just provide liquidity on balanced, and then the other one is if you have participated in governance. Now, and each of these, part of the packages, you have to have minimum 100 or 200 depending on the airdrop staked, which is also a cool feature. So a lot of it, especially if people have multiple wallets and stuff, you had to kind of go in and keep allocating staking to those addresses before you could claim your airdrop. That said, even if you had one wallet, as long as you've done something on balanced, you're looking at 100 free tokens. So get in here and claim. It's only available till the 25th of September, so don't miss out on this opportunity. Be thorough, check through, jump in the Icon Telegram chat if you have questions, and we can help clear it up, or even in the Ohm Discord chat if you have questions around it. But yeah, look, we should have really researched the airdrop aspect a bit earlier and gotten it to everyone, but I don't think there was that much information available on how the mechanics would work, apart from there is an airdrip and there's an airdrop. So this is the official breakdown of how you can capitalize on it. I think that's all I have with airdrop news.
Yeah, and so obviously that was a pretty good coverage of Ohm. I think that was one of the longer segments we've done on a DeFi protocol, which is good because it just launched. But moving on to the other one, balanced. We obviously touched upon some of this. Obviously there's 4 new liquidity pools now. Ohm SICX, Ohm IUSDC, and Ohm USDS, as well as a IUSDC and BNUSD pool, which is just 2 stable coins. 3 of them are incentivized with Ohm, as we've just talked about, pretty well incentivized at the moment, getting a 5% chunk of those for each pool. The IUSDC BNUSD is not incentivized, at least at this point in time, mainly because there is really no risk, very minimal risk in that one, in the sense that there is, it's $2 trading against one another. So the amount of potential and permanent loss is pretty minimal, if not non-existent, just because BNUSD is trading at a bit of a discount relative to the IUSDC for a couple of reasons, and so technically they're not trading one for one, but over time, once a couple of things get adjusted, I expect that to be basically one for one. So that's why there's not much incentive there. But that being said, there are plans to give a little bit of an, I believe, BALN allocation to give a little bit more incentive, just because it'd be helpful if that pool is very liquid, so that way, if someone comes in and tries to change $5,000 from one stable to another, after slippage it doesn't end up being 4,900 or something like that. So it would be good to get a good chunk of liquidity in there just to have that problem not happen. So that's why there's going to be a little bit of an allocation, but again, it's not super high risk, so you don't want to necessarily over incentivize it and take incentives away from other pools that are a bit higher risk as far as impermanent loss is concerned. And there are tweaks being made to the rebalancing system. This is something that has been talked about essentially since day one of balanced, just because people didn't quite have full familiarity with how that works and why it's important in terms of maintaining the peg for BNUSD. And so this is something, a lot of people are frustrated to see that their ICX was being sold off, primarily whenever the price went down. We started to see some additional rebalancing these last couple days, just because with all the other tokens coming in and people starting to move money around and things like that, the peg started to deviate a little bit, which triggers selling as well in order to keep BNUSD closer to $1. And so there's some improvements being made that'll make sure it's more reliably closer to $1, but also the impacts that are seen by people who have loans out and have BUNSD outstanding will be minimal, and in some cases even potentially beneficial. So there's a thread. This has been talked about for a while. There's a thread on it that Scott posted that is available for people to kind of look through and get some of the details. But nonetheless, something that it's been kind of I guess the one thing people kind of see balanced negatively as far as that sell off happening when the BNUSD gets out of peg. It's kind of the main gripe, I guess you could say. But again, that's something that should be resolved here pretty soon. And because it's basically a feature that already exists, it doesn't require a governance vote either. So can be implemented without going through that step.
Yeah, that's a big one, which is exciting. I think as well, just in case, Icongraph touched on it, but there is a vote going on. We covered this where their allocations, you can see this is probably a bit more of a lot of people rejecting, but approval is still winning. However, even in this one, there's a small change where they are looking to allocate 0.5% of the distribution to ISDC BNUSD, which is cool. And as mentioned, I guess when there is a lot of liquidity there, then this pool, will see that stability in the pairs, so people moving large sums between won't break the peg constantly, which is what we're seeing at the moment. But on the plus side, it's creating a great arb opportunity for people to capitalize and make money on. But everyone should pay attention. This is where, again, it comes in that if you're unaware, you go to swap 5,000 BNUSD to ISDC and the peg's broken, you may end up with 4,800. So you need to always be cautious, but adding this incentive hopefully will make people look at the pool and go, you know what, there's no IL, might as well throw my money in here, I'll earn some balanced as well. And don't forget, on top of it, you're earning the fees. So that there's 0.30 fees taken per trade. 0.15 goes to the stakers, from fee perspective, but 0.15 of it goes back into the people who are providing liquidity as well. So if there's a lot of trading activity going on and no IL, it can be quite lucrative. How lucrative? Don't know. You'd have to test the waters and gauge for yourself, but it's cool. Overall, the proposal, I know people are, it's substantial changes to borrowing. We've run through this, so people would be quite vocal about it. But I think what is great to see is there's money going into the DAO fund. And as I called out, even in the sessions that we had, look at it as a term of, you're not getting it now, but if balance is successful, stuff in the DAO fund can get redistributed at any time in the protocol's future to the balance holders. That is always on the card. So if it's going to the DAO fund, it doesn't mean it's going to the team or it's lost to all of us at the moment. It's not. It is literally for us to reallocate at a time we choose. And you know what? In the future, we may see a better opportunity that helps the protocol and our current stash of balanced tokens, and kind of vote for that to happen. We don't know what it'll present, but it's good to have the fund, a substantial amount in the DAO fund to ensure the protocol can last through, crypto winters. Yeah.
And another nice little tidbit of news is there is a exchange which I had not heard of, I don't believe, called PTP B2B, which is actually, I checked on CoinMarketCap and it says it does about, at least in the last 24 hours, about $1 billion worth of volume. So it's not some backwoods fly-by-night exchange. It's pretty active. Good number of pairs. Obviously, it has the Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also plenty of other tokens like Chainlink and things like that. And the good news is that BNUSD will be coming to that exchange in the near future. So obviously, the kind of the bummer about BNUSD is really the only way to move it around is essentially through SICX and a couple other tokens. And so obviously whenever you're doing that, then you're paying fees, and then if you want to move your BNUSD into actual USD, you have to go through ICX, and you have to send your ICX to exchange, and then you have to sell it in the exchange, and then you have to withdraw from the exchange, and each of those steps potentially incurs a fee as well. So being able to take your BNUSD and move it off and potentially trade it for either another stablecoin or another another asset, like if you wanted to buy Ethereum with it or something like that, just having that flexibility will be a really big help and create potentially some more interesting dynamics as far as balance is concerned.
Yep.
Other than that, I think that's everything for our balanced update. So next is we have a little bit of Iconloop news, which is always good. It's one of those things where it's just with all the excitement as far as balanced and OM are concerned. Iconloop, this kind of went under the radar a little bit, which I think is a good sign because it shows how much in the older days we were so reliant on bits of news from Iconloop to give us excitement, whereas now we have kind of constant excitement. So whenever we get the Iconloop news, it's just kind of a bonus in the background. But they have been selected as a leading provider of a pilot project to build a blockchain-based ship inspection management platform. And it says Iconloop will integrate ship inspection data based on blockchain and issue ships NFT. So, not a whole lot of details on this yet. I think it's kind of an interesting idea. Certainly nice to see Iconloop still out there getting different contracts, opportunities, all that good stuff. And I think this is also a pretty unique approach to blockchain to a certain extent. Kind of this is, I guess, a little bit kind of what BChain is doing as far as kind of supply chain management, things like that. A little bit of a different stripe, but nonetheless, nice to always see Iconloop getting some further opportunities, good publicity, and potentially down the road another asset for the Icon ecosystem, especially when it comes to BTP, cross-chain, private public chain interaction, all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, adoption in this space is great, right? I know the first question, how does it generate? We'll find all that out. It's just great to see that this stuff is still happening and that connection is still there.
And then another, speaking of NFT, one of the kind of the more anticipated projects is Gangsta. We've talked about it a couple times on here. If you're not aware of it by this point, be sure to visit gangstabet.io, and that's GANGSTABET. And they are getting closer to their initial sale, and they are offering an opportunity to reserve up to 5 of the Gangsta Bets. So you have about a week to do this. It ends September 10th. And so all you have to do is basically be following them on Twitter or be involved in their Telegram room and connect a wallet to your on the website and just basically hit submit, and then you're kind of counted in the system. So as long as you're following them or engaged in that Telegram, you'll be eligible for that reservation. And I may have missed a detail, but what I believe this is essentially, just in case they do their sale and they all get sold out or something like that, at least five will be kind of set aside for your wallet, so you could purchase them. So certainly a nice little thing they're offering. Obviously, they're trying to boost their own social engagement, participation, all that good stuff. So certainly a nice marketing idea. But if you are interested in that project, I would encourage you to at least sign up on that website because it is essentially free to do so. You're not pre-committing to buying five or anything like that. It's just they're being set aside presumably for a certain amount of time, so you have the opportunity to buy them in case you're unable to get any in the actual full-on pre-sale.
Yeah, look, agree. I've just loaded it up as well, so it's quite a simple process. You go reserve, and their site is top notch. So you can actually, if you haven't heard about it, you can scroll through. They've got a detailed breakdown and showing all their cool sample artwork of what the NFTs will look like. I think one thing to remember that this is a team that has built the CPS system. This is a team that has worked on Balanced and on Ohm. So they're well experienced in building in the Icon ecosystem, and you can just see by how they've got the site and even this Gangsta bet, the way they're building it out, it looks top notch. So I'm very excited to get them on the show soon, very soon, and they talk through Gangsta bet. But yeah, that's definitely jump on this one. This is, again, I keep coming back to, finally stuff's launching. This is the stuff you don't want to ignore, because if you're getting free stuff, run at it and put your name in before the crowds come.
So another bit of NFT news, Icon has announced a partnership with a company called Fandiem, and is actually a nonprofit fundraising platform for fans. And this is kind of another one of those like strategic partnerships that we've kind of alluded to and mentioned over the last month or two, to where it's not going to necessarily it's not the same as a billboard in Times Square saying buy Icon. But it is a nice strategic partnership to help continue to grow the ecosystem in a productive and long-lasting manner. And so, I'll just read a little bit from the announcement. Here's a quote: "With deep connections in the music and entertainment industry and a keen eye for innovation, Fandiem has created a unique platform that connects fans to their favorite celebrities for the chance to win once-in-a-lifetime experiences in the real world, while at the same time raising money for various philanthropic initiatives." So, kind of my understanding of it is essentially, you have an opportunity to bid on certain opportunities, whether it's getting to hang out with a certain celebrity or whatever it is. Typically these things will go up for auction at fancy black tie charity balls where the winning bid is $500,000 or something crazy like that for a chance to hang out with some celebrity for a little bit. Whereas instead, this is more of a democratized system where everyone can kind of buy a ticket for a smaller amount, and one of those ticket ends up being the winner, and so anyone can have access to being part of this. And of course the proceeds they're for charitable purposes. So certainly an interesting business model. And the way Icon describes it is, with Fandiem's relationships and experience in the nonprofit sector, Icon's base layer technology, crafts NFT framework, and a growing market for NFTs, this strategic investment will help bring our mutual vision of building and promoting a marketplace and NFT issuance platform comparable to NBA Top Shot to the Icon network. So I'm interested to see how exactly, what the actual implementation of this looks like, as far as what the NFTs kind of do, how they work, all that other good stuff. But regardless of specifics, I like the vision here. I like the approach. I like the ambition, to be sure. Certainly bullish for Craft that Icon has taken such a kind of a direct interest in the success of that platform, because they recognize that Craft being successful is good for Icon as a whole. So very keen to watch this partnership play out, and it was another nice surprise that certainly wasn't expecting, and get the chance to learn about another organization doing interesting stuff, especially in the NFT space.
Yeah, agreed. This just came out. I've actually got the site. You can see it looks quite good. I don't know a lot about this stuff, but I will say this: when I saw this, I had this thought, Iconographer, hope maybe they listened to that episode where I was a bit critical and said, yeah, great, this NFT investment, but we want details. Time has passed for we've made strategic investments. Tell us what they are. So it was great to see this news just turn around quite quickly and they reveal exactly what it is. So I'm very pleased with that. And just again, we've seen consistently actually. So from the market makers news to the expansion in Europe to joining hands with an established company that clearly hasn't ventured into the NFT space yet, but will help them kind of bring that into the NFT space, and that's an excellent use case from an NFT perspective. It's tying into I guess the celebrity and everything this site and company is trying to do. So more eyes on NFTs, more eyes on Icon, more eyes on Craft. It's win-win-win all around. I think Icongrapher, is that the news? I believe that's
Yeah,
all the news. Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully there wasn't anything major breaking in the last hour that we missed. But nonetheless, I think everyone's eager to go back to their clicking buttons for ARB opportunities and things like that. So we'll be interested to see how week 2 of Own plays out, and obviously we'll be getting more and more kind of hit refresh on Twitter as far as more announcements regarding the Icon 2.0 launch, BTP, all the other stuff, just because it is basically right around the corner. So I know we're excited, and I know the community is going to be excited to finally see that all kind of come to fruition.
Look, agree. Yeah, I got nothing more to add there. You've covered it brilliantly. The only thing I'm going to say, and just call this out again, I know we shared some ARB opportunities and things like that. Remember, not financial advice. Don't just go on a whim and assume you're going to make money. You need to make sure you know what you're doing. So it's up to you what you do, how you invest, what you pick. We are just two guys talking through options and talking about what we've learnt, I guess, and sharing it with the wider community instead of holding those cards to ourselves. Apart from that, make sure you invest wisely and are checking everything, triple checking before you go doing anything to be safe. Be safe out there is what I'm trying to get at. But once again, thank you. Like, subscribe, share, and until next time, thanks for listening.
See ya.